last week listen, I got terrible memory. I forgot everything I talked about last week. But one thing I didn't cover was probably arguably the biggest story that was ran last week. So this was as of like last Thursday, last Friday, the 19th to 20th type shit. It came out that LeBron James was not voted as the NBA's best player in an offseason survey. I don't know why my brain just stopped working like that, but it was that he didn't even receive a single vote as the NBA's best player, which kind of threw a lot of people for a loop, him included. He took to Twitter, thanking all the haters and just trying to proclaim how he isn't washed. And the consensus was that obviously LeBron James is not washed. This dude is going to be 37 years old, and he's coming off a season where he averaged like 25 points, 7 rebounds, and damn near 8 assists. But this, I thought, was the annual GM survey that the NBA does, that they publish on NBA.com, and that the league actually runs. It's like, okay, who do you think is going to be the champion? Who's the best player at each position? Who do you think is going to win MVP? Who do you think is the best player in the NBA, the best shooter, the best ball handler, stuff like that? It's a very comprehensive survey that usually comes out around 2 weeks before the beginning of the season. I know last season, 2020-21, they published it on like December 10th or something, which is almost exactly 2 weeks before the beginning of the season. This, however, I have a reason to believe that this is something entirely different. This was published by ESPN, and it was written by Tim Bontemps. And it says here that's they were talking about fucking summer league and shit like that. Now that last season is in the books, what will next season bring? Here's what a panel of 10 NBA scouts and executives had to say about what transpired over the past few weeks and what it'll mean for the 2021-22 campaign. Now, right away, there's only 10 people voting on this poll. I don't know how many GMs vote on the GM poll every year, but I would assume that it's close to 30. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't believe the GMs are allowed to vote for anyone on their team. So John Marks, for example, would not be able to pick Kevin Durant as the NBA's best player. What the fuck is his name? John Horst? I think John Horst is the GM for the Milwaukee Bucks. He's not allowed to vote for Giannis as the NBA's best player. The Heat wouldn't be able to pick themselves to be the NBA champions. I don't know what any of this is. I don't know if any of it is relevant to this survey. I don't know if there are any stipulations, but we're gonna fucking get right into it. The first question, the hardest hitter: who is the best player in the NBA heading into the 2021-22 season? Giannis and Kevin Durant both got 5 votes apiece, which is not entirely surprising. I just want to read the blurb here. I'm doing this blind, by the way. This is a semi-blind reaction. So I'm just going to take the quotes of these respective individuals. People love to focus on his faults, but he's a hell of a player. This is what one Eastern Conference exec said of Giannis. There was another one who said he's unlocked a different cheat code at both ends that gives him that spot. You can certainly argue for Durant and LeBron, but between injury and age, can they consistently do it? There was another one, quote, I think he's the best scorer in the league. I don't think it's close, and he's pretty good defensively too, said a Western Conference scout about Kevin Durant. The things he's able to do offensively are generational, and I don't know if you can stop him. He's absolutely lethal. Another scout, this one from an Eastern Conference team, said a healthy Durant gives more on both ends than anybody else. Health is a big if going forward, but his combination of scoring and defense is tough to bear. So I'm not surprised that LeBron wasn't picked as the league's best player. LeBron has pretty much unanimously been the best player in the NBA for the last 12 years or so. I'd say since around like 2009, 2010-ish. Ever since then, pretty much everyone has been in agreement that there is nobody better in the NBA than LeBron James. There have been instances where guys have had better seasons than LeBron. You look at Steph when he won his MVP in 2015, 2016. One of the all-time greatest seasons that any NBA player has ever had. And he was a more dominant player than LeBron James that season. But in a conversation like this, a lot of it comes down to the skill set of the individual players. And I don't know if you guys can hear this, but there is some yard work going on in my neighbor's backyard. They are cutting down a fucking tree because every time there is some sort of fucking tropical storm or hurricane or something, always someone's fucking tree falls down. And I think that's a big reason why we got rid of all the trees in our backyard, all the big trees at least, and put in a bunch of little ones. But if you guys hear the chainsaws going, I apologize. Anyway, let's get back into it. So the best player conversation is always kind of weird because it is this intricate dance of skill set. Availability, of course, is a huge one, and just the numbers that these guys can put up. Now, I think that LeBron, KD, and Giannis are the top tier of NBA talent at this point. They are the S tier. I would also consider throwing Steph Curry in there. I would also consider throwing Nikola Jokic in there. But I think we're pretty much in agreement that Giannis, KD, and LeBron are pretty well separated beyond everybody else. Like, these guys have the fewest concerns when it comes to their game. Statistically, they all match up pretty well to one another. KD just came off averaging like 27.7 rebounds and almost 6 assists. Giannis at almost like 28 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, something like that. What is it actually? 28 points, 11 boards, and 6 assists. Without a doubt, to me, Giannis is the most dominant player in the NBA right now, meaning that he's going to put up these numbers pretty much with his eyes closed. Kevin Durant can do the same, LeBron can do the same, but they don't compare to Giannis in terms of overall efficiency and just overall. I think the intimidation factor for Giannis is another thing as well. Like, when he decides to take it to another level, it's a wrap. It is very similar to what LeBron did and what Kevin Durant did in their younger years. LeBron was with Miami. When he wanted to take it to the greatest of all time level, it was a wrap for everybody. What he did against the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference semifinals in 2012, very similar to what Giannis did all throughout the playoffs this past season, just physically dominating everybody on both ends of the floor, as a scorer, as a rebounder, as an interior defender, as a playmaker. Sometimes I don't think anyone's going to argue Giannis being the most dominant. When it gets into the weeds, particularly with Giannis, is that his skill set does not compare to Kevin Durant or LeBron. And Kevin Durant and LeBron are also very different in their own regards. LeBron cannot touch Kevin Durant in terms of scoring. While statistically they are very similar, Kevin Durant has a skill set that nobody in NBA history has ever matched, and that nobody in NBA history will ever. 7 feet tall, an 8-foot wingspan, dribbles as well as Steph Curry, as well as Kyrie Irving, and then is as sharp a shooter as Reggie Miller, Kyle Korver, JJ Redick. The ability to be a catch and shoot guy, to take defenders off the dribble, to really just be a menace from anywhere on the court. It's not just generational, it's like once in a lifetime, once in forever. I feel like the more I watch Kevin Durant, the more I realize that he's one of one. He is a LeBron James. He is a Michael Jordan. He is a Kareem. He's a Magic Johnson. There will never be another one of those guys. People will come close. People will definitely come close. I mean, Kobe Bryant is not Michael Jordan, but he's the closest that anyone has ever gotten to being Michael Jordan. You can even say the same about Kawhi Leonard to Michael Jordan. And then we see guys like James Harden, like Luka Doncic, who are able to match LeBron's level of versatility, but he's still just on a completely different level compared to them. And I don't know who I would pick in this scenario. I do feel a little bit biased because I am a Brooklyn Nets fan. I do love Kevin Durant a lot more now that he's on my team, that I get to root for him however many games that he's held before. I had always appreciated his game, but I think, like, I've never been in this position before. I've never had like an all-time great player to root for. I do think I look at things a little bit differently now. Like, I'm not so sure I would be considering Kevin Durant as the best player in the NBA. I don't think I'd have such strong convictions about it if he wasn't a Brooklyn Net. I would definitely include him in the conversation, but I don't think I would steer so close to him. I think I'd probably wind up going with LeBron because he's been the greatest player that I've ever seen. And for pretty much like almost all of my adult life, he's been the guy he's been the most reliable option in the NBA. Almost. But it's difficult to pick. Like, I wouldn't want to be one of the guys that had to pick who the best player in the NBA is right now, because I wouldn't be able to. Even now, sitting in front of this camera, talking into this microphone, I'm not able to focus in on one guy because all of their cases are just immaculate. If the only thing at this point is age and injury concerns, LeBron having age and injury concerns, Kevin Durant having injury concerns, and also, age will be a bit of a factor in the coming years, except I don't think age impacts Kevin Durant as it does some other players at his position, because as we've seen, the Achilles injury, one of the worst injuries an athlete can suffer, really didn't do anything to his game. He comes back and has the best season of his career. Like, his game has always been predicated on skill set, and he's been able to really improve so deep into his career because he's never had to make a switch. LeBron had to make a little bit of a switch at some point. I mean, he's still a freak athlete, especially for his age, but we've seen it. He has taken a bit of a step back when it comes to his assertiveness as a scorer, when it comes to him just being able to fly by everybody on the perimeter for 36, 38, 40, 42 minutes. He has to pick and choose his spots a lot more. Of course, he's still wickedly effective on offense, and that's not going to change. I mean, he's improved his three-point shot, so having to shift hasn't really done anything for him. But how much longer will that be able to continue? Of course, the long-term conversation in this regard doesn't matter because we're talking about him for next year. And I don't think LeBron is going to fall off drastically unless he gets riddled with injuries, kind of like how Kobe was at the end of his career. Like, if you're not able to walk, you're not able to put up numbers. Now, Giannis, of course, does have the availability factor. As people always say, what's the best ability? What's the best ability? The best ability is availability. And Giannis is super durable. Played 61 of 72 games last season, or this past season. Played 63 games the year before during the COVID truncation. 72, 75, 80, 80, 81. Like, this guy is a workhorse. And I think a lot of it is because he doesn't have to play so many minutes. I mean, he played 33 minutes this past season, which was the highest he's played since 2017, 2018. LeBron and Kevin Durant did play a lot of minutes early on in their career, as did Giannis, especially like his third and fourth seasons. He did play a considerable amount of minutes, but the Bucks have just become so fucking dominant that they don't have to play in the fourth quarter. Like, Giannis, Drew Holiday now, Chris Middleton, they don't have to play the final 8, 10, 12 minutes of a ball game. And they can do this against bad teams. They can do it against good teams. Like, that's the luxury you have when you're the most dominant team in the NBA. But in terms of trying to, again, pinpoint who the best player in the NBA is at this point, I don't know if you can do it. Like, I don't feel right picking one of these three guys. I mean, if you really twist my arm, I'm going to say Kevin Durant because I'm inherently biased. Like, I don't think I can overcome these biases. But then I say that, and then I think about what Giannis has done throughout the last regular season, all throughout the postseason. Like, it's hard to go against Giannis. It really is. It's incredibly hard to go against Giannis. And then, of course, I mentioned him at the top of the segment, but Nikola Jokic, this guy is coming off an MVP campaign and didn't get a single vote. Like, I think it's very disrespectful for everyone in this poll to have voted for either Kevin Durant or Giannis. Like, obviously they deserve it, but Steph Curry deserved a vote. Nikola Jokic deserved a vote. LeBron James deserved a vote. Like, I'm not surprised that these two guys earned a majority of the votes, but I am surprised that they were the only guys who earned votes. I mean, again, if we want to talk about just statistical dominance, Nikola Jokic won an MVP, averaging similar numbers to Giannis. Well, no, that's actually factually incorrect. He was still scoring was like 22, 23, 24 points a night. Let me double check this. Let me not look like a dickhead live on air. Let me actually get these numbers. 26 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists. Shooting 57% from the field, 39% from three, and 87% from the line. You're going to tell me that this guy doesn't have a case to be the best player in the NBA? He does. Obviously, just winning the MVP is technically the best player in the NBA. Of course, that argument is kind of flawed because Giannis won Finals MVP, which means he was the best player he was the best player on the best team in the NBA. So again, this conversation, it gets into the weeds very quickly. But again, I'm just more concerned about the disparity of the votes or the lack thereof, or the lack of disparity. No, I don't know. I'm overall just very confused that these guys, KD and Giannis, were the only ones who earned votes. I mean, now, like, I don't know who I should pick for this, and I hope no one came here hoping for me to give them an answer, because you guys are going to be very, very disappointed. I can already tell you that.